Big story coming down the pike this week with Sony. Okay, Sony, the big entertainment company, looking to buy another huge name in the business. Normally, when it comes to massive mergers, especially in this was, presented as a more gaming space oriented news story. It would normally come from like Microsoft because in recent years, them acquiring first Bethesda and then that massive deal for $69 billion for Activision Blizzard. That's normally an Xbox type thing, okay? But both companies could definitely use some W's, but given the fact that Sony has much more prominently closed a few studios and have taken a few body blows in 2024 in comparison, they could use a W to close out the year. So them going and potentially buying the parent company of one of the most reliable hit makers in the business, that's big news. That is big news. Sony is in talks to buy media powerhouse behind Elden Ring. Yeah, if you know anything about those Soulsborne games, okay, you know the developer FromSoft, okay? So you're thinking, Sony's gonna buy FromSoft? Oh, no, it's even bigger than that, and it's even bigger than video games, but we'll get into that in due time, okay? Sony is in talks to acquire Kadokawa, okay, the Japanese media powerhouse behind the Elden Ring game, which, yeah, of course, it's getting marketed that, right now. Oh, Sony wants to take Elden Ring first party. They want Elden Ring 2 to be on their PS, busted crap. I'm looking down at mine, just, taking a look at it, and it's like, well, thank God I got it secondhand and for a decent price, because there's no way in hell I would have bought it firsthand. But then I think, how many hours of fun I've had playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth this year, and stupid Sony business practices keeping that first party and keeping that exclusive to the console. That's the only reason why I have that piece of plastic crap. But then also extrapolating that story out from here, telling that same tale with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, very famously, according to Square Enix, underperforming, even though we haven't seen any official sales figures to date, even though I had figured out earlier this year at least 3 million copies it sold, which is decent on the PS5 if there was a PC port release date and day. I mean, guys, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? Like, I want a PC port tomorrow, for Christ's sakes. Okay, I want to mod a bunch of shit that's in there, but I digress. But with that said, why would a company that has gone through this, first party crap, who has seen firsthand the benefits of releasing with a PC port on the first day? I don't know if you guys have been around the gaming space long enough to remember how big of an accomplishment it was to finally get to get Dark Souls on PC. That was one of Total Biscuit's crowning achievements. And god damn it, man, was he taken away from us far too soon. 2018, man, we were robbed of great insight and a fantastic advocate, and we've been left with what? Jim the tranny stare. Like, what are we doing out here, bro? God, they took the wrong fat Brit. But you've had FromSoft, go through this exclusivity nonsense and, seen one of their best offerings, Demon Souls, be locked to Sony because, well, Sony already owns a little bit of Kadokawa. So I guess this is kind of a long time coming. And I thought that Sony, has been in the market, they've been movers and shakers here for a minute. Like the last quote unquote big studio acquisition they made was for Bungie. And I bet you they're probably regretting that one. But now they're trying to see exactly what type of magic they can work here, because instead of buying, a brand that is significantly on the decline, they're getting one of the hottest media juggernauts rolling right now. I mean, bro, having the exclusivity license behind anything with Dark Souls branding on it is the easiest dub going right now. Okay, even though I don't like the games at all. I haven't played one of them. They just don't appeal to me. I don't like the aesthetics. I don't like the gameplay. It's not for me. Not saying that they're bad games by any means. It's really not for me. But anyways, the talks between the two sides are ongoing, and if successful, the deal could be signed in the coming weeks. And yeah, this started at the beginning of the week. Like this story, I think it either started at the beginning of the week or it cracked at the end of last week. But yeah, so there hasn't been much forward-facing progress, just some conversations behind the scene and people going, I don't know about this, man. Kadokawa shares closed up 23% of their daily limit. Its market capitalization was around $2.7 billion prior to the Reuters report. Sony shares closed up 0.6%. So yeah, that's just showing that there is some optimism in the markets. But for a company as big as this to only have a market cap of $2.7 billion, that's kind of crazy. Seeing how much stuff they own and have the rights to, it's like, it's very strange. Okay, Sony has declined to comment. Kadokawa said it cannot comment. Yeah, and of course, at this point in time, and especially with these type of negotiations being rumored, no comment is essentially you're on the right track. Sony already had a 2% stake in Kadokawa and a stake in Kadokawa controlled FromSoftware, which, yeah, of course, makes sense. Like, right, Demon Souls is a first-party game for Sony. Bloodborne is a first-party game for Sony. I forget, was it Armored Core? I remember Armored Core started as an old Sony game back in the cut. I had the demo disc for, I think Armored Core 2 was on the demo disc that I had for the PlayStation 1, and I played the piss out of those. Remember demo discs? But no, it had Parappa the Rapper, I think a Tomb Raider, and definitely had Armored Core. I played the piss out of that one. God damn it, those games were fun. So yeah, if I was to hop on to a FromSoft game, it might be Armored Core 6. Okay, that one's, I like me some big mechs that can just, fly all over the place. I digress. The critically acclaimed title, yes, is a collaboration between veteran director Hideaki Miyazaki and George R.R. Martin. Finish the books, George. No, you're not. You're too busy showing out in public and letting everybody lap your ass. The game, which depicts an atmospheric world, and yeah, we know the Elden Ring. Even if you haven't played the game, you know about the game, and you know that the DLC is out there, and it could end up winning Game of the Year. How does that one make sense? Don't know at all whatsoever, but moving up a little bit, a day after the announcement was made, there was a little bit more of a statement coming out of the Kadokawa camp, as opposed to what Sony, they've been very tight-lipped about this, but Kadokawa has confirmed it has received a buyout offer from Sony, so these are very legitimate talks. Earlier this week, Reuters reported that Sony was in talks to buy Kadokawa, whose subsidiary FromSoft is behind smash hit Elden Ring, Dark Souls, and Armored Core games, PlayStation exclusive Bloodborne. Yeah, of course, they've also got another, roster of great games. Like they have the IP for Tenshu, and I did a little game that a lot of the FromSoft disciples, swear by in Sekiro. Imagine that, it's a samurai game with an actual Japanese samurai. It's a weird concept, but they, managed to make for Souls guys, they managed to make one of the best games out there for it. It's just a wild idea, right? Kadokawa has now confirmed the report with a note from CEO Takeshi Natsuno, issued after shares in the company skyrocketed on the news. There are some articles on the acquisition of Kadokawa Corporation by Sony Group. However, this information is not announced by the company. The company has received an initial letter of intent to acquire the company's shares, but no decision has been made at this time. If there are any facts that should be announced in the future, we will make an announcement in a timely and appropriate manner. Sony has declined to comment. And yeah, while a lot of people will end up giving this story its just desserts for the fact that, Sony's, PlayStation's trying to get more games for their console that doesn't have games, but it's actually, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. There's a couple more layers to this, as Sony acquiring Kadokawa could lead to a troubling anime monopoly, because as popular as Soulsborne games are, anime and manga, that shit trumps it 25-fold. And if you aren't paying attention to what Sony is doing in totality with their entertainment side of things, you would understand that they are working very hard to create a monopoly for console gaming, for music, and also for anime. Check this out. A new report has indicated that Sony is currently in talks to acquire Kadokawa, and if it goes through, it could lead to a troubling monopoly in the anime industry, as Sony would then have a much greater stake in production and distribution, down to even what could potentially be adapted or animated in the future. Not great, because we've seen the track record, not just in 2024, but for a very long time coming out of Sony, and their forward proclivities to make things, as South Park once put it, lame and gay. Yeah, not great. As they state, talks between the two sides are ongoing, and if successful, a deal could be signed in the coming weeks. While the report primarily focuses on the fact that Kadokawa is currently, owner of the popular video game developer FromSoftware, and the studio behind mega hits like Elden Ring, but Kadokawa operates a much bigger pool than just video games. If Sony acquires the entire umbrella, then it is going to have an unprecedented stake in the anime industry, with multiple studios, distribution networks, licensors, and more under their belt than that are currently within Kadokawa. And, even if this deal doesn't go through, if you take a look at the distribution avenues that Sony has under their umbrella, they own Crunchyroll. They own several other anime studios and distributors. It's actually amazing how much of the anime market they already have cornered. And Kadokawa, as it stands, is one of the biggest non-Sony entities. So this is, a little bit more than just, your dodge roll souls, okay? Kadokawa's already gotten a lot of attention for anime fans in the last few years following the announcement of efforts to produce at least 40 new anime titles a year back in 2021. This has resulted in franchises that have been successful for sure. The recent anime hits such as Delicious in Dungeon, ReZero Starting Life in Another World, The Rising of the Shield Hero. I think I might have heard of that one and more. Yeah, as for the rest of them, those are literal words, bro. I don't know. The production giant has also recently acquired notable studios like Doga Kabo. Yep, and has gotten attention in the last couple of years with Oshi no Ko and Aliyah Sometimes Hides Her Feelings in Russian. Yo, that's some anime ass shit right there. But that's just what makes it to the screen. The company reaches out far beyond that. Yup. It's not just game developing studios like FromSoftware or Spike Chunsoft. Kadokawa also has ownership of light novel, manga, and magazine publishers such as ASCII Media Works, the Love Live franchise, okay, Enterbrain, Ranking of Kings, see previous, and even bookstores like Bookwalker that helps overseas fans import each of these respective light novels that have yet to make it outside of Japan. They want everything, and that's why this deal is troubling so many. And as the days go on, we find out more information, and this is of course a rumor where Kadokawa may have approached Sony themselves to block a hostile takeover from Kakao. Oh wait, so you're going from one benevolent overlord to another? What are we doing? I guess malevolent in this case. As we reported yesterday, Kadokawa officially confirmed that Sony made an offer, but they have yet to make a decision, as shared in the gaming leaks and rumors subreddit by user 4000KD Shinobi 602 theorizes. Okay, so this is a Reddit rumor. Take it with a truckload of salt. Kadokawa, and Sony are all giant conglomerates with their hands deep in different businesses. Unlike Kadokawa and Sony, Kakao is from South Korea. I would much rather this stay over on Eastern Shores, if we're going to be completely honest. And the core business is Kakao Talk. Yo, that sounds like, a baking forum, but all right. Messaging app that is #1 in revenue with both iOS and Android in their home country. Okay. Kakao's scope of business includes online banking, transportation, e-commerce, and of course entertainment. Yeah, see, that's where it makes sense. Kakao Entertainment makes movies and shows, and yes, they produce K-pop. Holy shit. So this has got Dark Souls, this has got anime, and it's got K-pop. No wonder the story is so big. Kakao does not have a good reputation in spite of its financial success. Really? We're talking about a company whose founder was embroiled in a gambling scandal when it launched. Ooh, that's not good. And this year, Kakao was embroiled in a stock manipulation scandal over the successful hostile takeover of K-pop and entertainment company SM Entertainment. Oh shit. So Sony might actually end up being the good guy at the end of this, but at the end of the day, okay, so you either have a company that is embroiled in like a gambling scandal, or you've got a company that more than likely killed Michael Jackson. Kadokawa was stuck between a rock and a hard place, to say the least. It'll be interesting to see how this story ultimately shakes out, and I'm going to be following it because it's quite a big entertainment story. Even if you're not an anime guy, even if you're not a Souls guy, this right here could have massive repercussions. We'll see how it goes, though. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.